extended fasts? How should you think about them? What should you implement? I am going to argue here that what you implement may well depend on your psychology. Let me explain. First, in the process that I used to lose 140 pounds, I didn't have a plan. I was just trying something. I was just like going along and doing something. It was working, and so I just kept doing it. I didn't implement anything in a systematic way. However, I started the Eat Like a Bear community. I wrote this book, The Bare Bones Blueprint, and one of the things I mention in it is how I did these extended fasts. And Maria came into the group in January of 2019, and she read that, and she said, well, heck, if this worked for Amanda, I'm going to do it every single week. And so Maria popularized the idea in the community of having a weekly 72-hour fast. It's highly effective. I mean, that is not eating for 2 days in a row. So Maria stops her eating on Saturday, and then she does not eat Sunday or Monday, but then eats again on Tuesday. And on Saturday, she actually eats a little bit more in calories. So anyway, she ends up with a reasonable number of calories in a week, but she has 2 complete days in a row where she's not eating. And I've made no secret that I really admire the habit formation involved in what Maria did, and have also said, you know, I just kind of wildly did something. This is what I did. And it only kind of came to my attention as Celeste asked about this in the group and asked how should we think about extended fasts. And I thought, wait a minute, for as much as I admire Maria's approach, let's not take for granted something I did without really planning that might actually be surprisingly effective once we think about it. And I think ultimately it depends on you and your personality. So this is the thing. I did not implement every week or even every 2 weeks or anything. I had no structure in when I did the extended fasts. This is when I did the extended fasts. When my hunger crept up. And you know, when I might be a little hungry every day, but I mean like the babyish hunger that's just like ridiculous, and you wonder like, where is that even coming from? I can't possibly be that hungry. Those days I would not give in. I would not give in and say to myself, you know what, you think you're hungry, I'm gonna show you hunger, and I'm gonna go on an extended fast. And that's what I did. And so I call it the drill sergeant approach, and that was very much what I was doing in those days. And I think about that now, I still do it. And so while it's interesting, Maria has like the weekly habit, I have a habit of like, you gonna be a big old baby? Well, let me show you what happens when you're a big old baby. Let's go on a fast. So I'm still doing that in maintenance. And so it's still working for me in maintenance, but also one of the things I talk about in the psychology course that's now in the Eat Like a Bear digital course bundle, it's available there, but it's just in beta. And one of the things I talk about is like this internal negotiation that we have every single minute of the day, especially when we face something like the donut, and how we're gonna keep our long-term interests winning in the bargaining of like choosing the donut or not choosing it. And so those interests, we always have short-term interests that want us to do the bad things, right? And we have our long-term interests that want us to be like healthy and all that. And I've created a context in my own like internal negotiations where that long-term interest is really dominant and is very likely to win the negotiations. And this example of the extended fasts really fits into that framework, because I've essentially said, look, you start being all babyish and those little short-term interests are saying like, yeah, you need to eat more because you're all hungry. Then it's my like dominant, like long-term interests that come in and say, wait a minute, let me show you hunger. Let me show you hunger. And so while it's easy to like look at somebody else's habit and appreciate it, I've only recently appreciated maybe what I've done as its own kind of a habit, and one that really fits my psychology even better than having the weekly habit, because I'm completely showing myself, showing that like side of me, you're not going to win. You're not going to win. Because if you start being like a baby, I'm going to show you who's in charge. Now that fits up here for me. And I was thinking about this in the context of Celeste, because I kind of think it fits pretty well for her too. And Celeste, if you're in the group, you know maybe Celeste is my teenage dieting buddy. So I know a lot about Celeste. We spent a lot of years in our youth dieting together, and she's in the group just killing it right now. And always, as she brings up questions, I just think of she and I as kids, you know, and our psychology as kids. So I always am able to think about things a little bit differently. And so thank you, Celeste, for bringing up the question, because it really got me thinking about this and maybe appreciating the response we give to our own selves, even in the form of having an extended fast, as being important in these internal negotiations that we're having. So anyway, that's just food for thought. And it is not to say like any approach is better or worse at all. I mean, I think that's really the lesson that we're learning in the group, is that there are many different approaches. There are many different approaches to thinking about the extended fasts, and different structures that you can put in place. And having something very structured might be a really great thing for you. Don't discount that. And especially in getting the weight off, it's super effective to have a 72-hour fast every single week. But the long game is definitely in making sure that your long-term interests become the dominant interests, as I talk about in the course. And so let's not discount that as a factor in how we sort of craft how we do things like the extended fasts in our own life.